Hey there Titans, in this video I'll show you how to work with the calendar events on the Form Titan scheduler. So essentially whatever we're doing on the screen, so on the left side we have a title, the item panel, and on the right side we have our resource, and you can take a look at the resource timeline. So anything that happens on the screen, we get an event. And Form Titan basically gives you the option to receive these events and act upon them whenever they happen. So let me show you how I can get this set up. So if I'll go back here and watch this, once I drop something on the screen, you can see a bunch of stuff happening on my hiddens, and then some Salesforce actions running, etc. So let me show you how I can get this done. This is our calendar element, and I'm going to click on it and go to the element settings and hit the configure. So we have two parts here. We're going to start with the item panel events, and then we're going to get to the assigned item events in another video. Okay, so once we enable the item panel, we can see something here that says mapping. We're going to click on the mapping, and we can see all the hiddens, all the events that are available to us. And you can see that I've already mapped them, but mapping here is just simple. I just created the hiddens. I created a hidden named drop start and dropped end, and I just mapped the event of start date and end date onto my hiddens, as well as the resource ID, which is it's the resource that's on the screen that we mapped by getting the resources onto the scheduler. And then whenever we drop something on the resource, then Form Titan will tell us what's the resource ID, dropped resource ID. I just took the event and I mapped it onto a hidden. Very simple. So essentially what I've done, I mapped all these events onto the hiddens. Once we have all these mapped, then we can act on it. We can create the mapping, we can assign, we can do whatever we like. So a few important things here. So let's just review these events really quickly. So we have the start date and end date, wherever the item was dropped. We have the resource ID, which is the resource ID of the resource that we dropped it on. Is grouped resource means that if we have grouped resources, it will tell us 0 or 1, and then we can change our behavior. The title is the title of the dropped item. The event name is basically what happened on the event. Was it dropped? Was it clicked? Was it updated? And whatever is on here, it will let us know. Okay, so that's the event name, and then we have the event ID. This is the calendar event ID, which means if you want in the future to remove something from the calendar, you will need to use this. An error indicator lets you know if you have some issues with scheduling your task from the calendar. And then the record ID is the dropped record ID is what you have on the item panel. In our instance, we have work orders, and we map the ID of the panel ID onto the work order. So whenever I drop something here, then this will be the dropped record ID right there. And let me show you how I've used this. So for instance, for me to create a mapping, the only thing I need to do, I have this object here, work orders, which these are what I have on my panel. What I want to do is essentially update the work order with the resource ID that the item was dropped on and the start and end date time. So what I've done here, I went to the hidden, since I know Form Titan will update its hiddens with every event that happens. I set a condition on it saying if it's not empty and the event name is not clicked, which means it was dropped or updated, then what I want to do is run a Salesforce action. And my Salesforce action is very simple. I'm just updating the schedule. And if I'll go to my push, so Salesforce integration push, and my update is very simple. I'm just grabbing, my condition is record ID equals dropped record ID. And then the only thing I'm doing is mapping the resource and start and end, and then I'm done. Same thing for the update. Once I move it along, I will catch that event and map and run the Salesforce action. And again, you can create any Salesforce actions you like. If you want to create new objects, you can do anything that fits your design. And this is how it's done.